Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the 24th episode of Toaster Talk on the Toast Network. I'm your host, Vivek, and we are this close to our milestone meeting next week, which is the 25th episode. So look forward to something exciting there. But before we get into the future, let's discuss the weekend that we had, which was orange all over, not green, not red, but orange. And why, we'll discuss all of that. But first of all, we have a special group of panelists today. First of all, we have the founder of the gem of the idea that the Toast Network is all about, a sporting enthusiast, Orajit.
Hi,
Welcome.
guys.
And along with him, we have someone who's going to be heading really close to Milton Keynes in a few weeks' time. And we have Gaurang with us. Welcome aboard, Gaurang.
Hey, guys.
And last but not the least, someone who's had a very exciting weekend that you'd rather forget about, whichever sports you pick, Twinkle.
Hey everyone.
With that, I want to start off with a quick round to hear from each one of you, or like a key highlight for each one of you from the racing weekend that we had, excluding all the sporting debacles that happened in all the other sporting grounds. So Twinkle, we could probably start with you.
Yeah, I think I think overall it looked like quite a lot of for like the same formula for every race, right? For the last 10, 12 races, it's been the same formula. Ferrari makes the same mistakes. Lando's outperforming Ricardo by 10, 15 places. Mercedes, yeah, still the promises of a tomorrow. Max just clear dominance. So I think it's been quite, it was what was expected. Of course, it looked like there could be certain other aspects of it, such as, Hamilton could have won. There was the one possibility of that could have happened, where that could have happened. But yeah, in the end, it all played out like the first 10, 12 races. So yeah.
I mean, the only thing I would disagree with is Ferrari doesn't make the same mistake every time. It comes up with a new one.
Yeah. Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
Gaurang, how about you?
For me, yes, of course, I was excited for Mercedes and because they had good pace in Friday. But apart from that, when you go, down the order, I was looking forward to Alpine because out of nowhere they were like they had pace, but like the qualifying was not good, like for many reasons. And yeah, like Alpine is a team that used to make a lot of strategy errors, but this year they have been really good. So that's actually good to see because after the top three, I think Alpine is the next team that has the best strategy game. And then obviously you have McLaren, like uh, and the other teams. So yeah, I think Alpine did well. Mercedes also did well, but sad that the circumstances were not according to their plan and or whatever. Uh, Obviously, when you come to Ferrari, I mean, everyone is aware. Even Crofty said it. It's inevitable. You kind of anticipate when is the next error. Like we don't want it, but it just happens. So yeah, but overall, it was not plain sailing for Max, but as a result show, it did look like. So yeah, all in all, a good race.
Makes sense. And do you think tires are playing a big role for Mercedes?
Yeah.
Because you do see that, qualifying day, because you're just doing literally one
One.
lap, they don't have the pace, but come race day, Mercedes always shows the potential.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
I
yeah.
think I think that is so in one of their reports as well, I think they mentioned that the cars are too heavy. So I think it helps when they start to burn out some of the fuel. I think you'll always see pace in their car. This has been consistent the last 5, 6 races, I guess. They've always I do not really think it's the tires. I think it's more how their car is designed itself. But on the tires point, I'd say Alpine, as we were talking about earlier as well. So I think Alonso started out 13th, right? But then he chose the hard tire from the very get go, and then ended up scoring points. So Alpine's got their strategy spot on. Maybe Ferrari should be taking lessons from Alpine.
Yeah.
You never know. Arjit, any key highlights that you wanted to share from the racing weekend?
Oh,
Okay. He found it so boring, he decided to leave us. But till he gets back, I think the other interesting thing, the qualifying, which, as you both highlighted, the race weekend, when you look at the final results, kind of seems like every other race that's happened this year.
Yeah.
But, qualifying had some exciting differences with respect to them actually flagging the session for the orange flares, which have been a big irritant, and a cameo performance by Mr. Pigeon.
yeah.
But Twinkle, any key highlights that you want to highlight from the qualifying itself?
Yeah, I think the orange flares were inevitable, right? I mean, you're going racing in Zandvoort. This is just the second year. Last year there weren't as many people allowed. This year it's just more crowd, and I heard it sold out like last year. All the tickets got sold out last year. So I think it was inevitable. There is no real way to stop the orange flares. The pigeons was interesting. And I think there was also a little bit of rain expected in the middle of the qualifier. So I think they said it may rain somewhere in the middle. But I don't know if it actually drizzled or it didn't. But yeah, interesting yellow and red flags because of weird circumstances which have nothing to do with the racing itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that makes
Uh,
sense.
I
Yeah,
mean,
go ahead.
from my end, if I can just mention a couple of points, that is, Lance Stroll has found some pace. I mean, nothing against him, but if you see the history, it's very rare that you see him performing consistently. And Spa was good. Even this race was really good in the Dutch Grand Prix, and I hope it's the same. And we want him to perform. It's not like we don't want, but like the history shows, he's just there, the pay driver, whatever. But it's actually very good to see him do so well. Maybe like the whatever the plan is in terms of the setup is according to him. I'm not sure, but either way, he's doing well. So I'm actually happy for him. So that was one surprise, and also Mick Schumacher. Good stuff.
Yep. No, I think again they've always showed glimmer of excitement that things could look up, but
Yeah.
over the long run, they're still figuring those places out. But that
Yeah.
again probably brings me to another interesting point, right? Off the track, we had some more drama.
Yeah, Oscar Piastri.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oscar, F2 champion, sort of coming in,
Yeah.
and Ricardo, all the drama around it. Weber actually apologizing to Ricardo, saying that while he's the agent of Oscar, sort of
Oscar.
apologizing to him, saying that there's nothing personal and wouldn't have liked it to happen this way, but it's happened. Hopefully, there are no hard feelings. And Rick, being the cool guy that we know him as, took it on the chin. But what are your reactions?
I do have one thought on this, which is looking at current races, right? And by current, I mean like really 8 months of racing. Um, is is McLaren the better team of Alpine and McLaren? I mean, I don't know if Oscar went for the better team. I think currently, from what it looks like, Alpine has been performing better than McLaren as well. There's no guarantee that he'd fit well in the McLaren himself, because not like Ricardo doesn't know how to race. He's a fantastic driver. He couldn't fit in the McLaren, so there's no guarantee. But Alpine, both the drivers have been performing very at a very good level. So not really sure if he signed for the better team. I don't know if Mark Webber took the better decision.
I mean, if I can answer that.
Yeah, go ahead.
So it's up and down. It's
Yeah.
like last year McLaren were way ahead, and Alpine was like, they were like a very confusing team in terms of they had the setup
Yeah.
in qualifying, and in the race they were like nowhere. And in the race they were really good in the next weekend, and in the qualifying they were nowhere. So, and hence McLaren were very on a consistent hand, and obviously they had many podiums, like maybe 2 to 3 with Lando,
Yeah.
and also with
Yeah.
Ricardo a win.
Yeah.
So, but this year the story is like it's very different, and Alpine have been more consistent, and it's always not about how good the team is in terms of performance, maybe the internal hierarchy. Because if you see Alpine, they have Otmar as a team principal guy, but there are two more people who are actually higher in the hierarchy of managing the team and the drivers. So that gets in a lot of confusion, and as we all know, like when you're working in a corporate company, if you have so many layers, it just gets to hassle. So I think that maybe one of the points. It gets to like obviously confusing. So I know, and McLaren it's a legendary team. So you can never say no to them because if you remember Carlos, he just could not resist going to Ferrari. So he had to take the option because he was so much settled in obviously with McLaren and Lando. So but yeah, so that's the case here. I feel.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's 50-50. Whichever way, in retrospect, next year we'll be like, it was a good decision or not a good decision based on the results. But I think for the opportunity of even getting into the F1 track, right? They're just 20 drivers, and depending on their career growth trajectory, the window is really small. So like, I mean, even if Oscar had got Haas, he might have taken it.
Yeah.
Right, just getting out there, because once you're there and you're able to perform, people know what the car is, and if you're able to outperform those expectations, you will go up whenever people are looking for that switch to happen, right? And you need to have that foot in the door to actually get in, rather than be sitting outside thinking you're going to get a chance. And that brings up the point to even Ricardo, that everyone's discussing about, right? Does he take the year out? Because a year out means out of sight, out of mind. And someone else might just take the spot and he could be forgotten? Or does he just try to get into any opportunity that he gets, even if it's a reserve driver?
But I think someone made a very interesting point. I don't remember where I saw this, but I remember seeing this point, that he could race for one of the other teams, Haas, maybe some bottom team in F1, and basically struggle to even get points. The kind of driver that Daniel Ricciardo is, if he moves on to something like IndyCar or something, he may be there may be more teams invested in him, and he may even be capable of winning a championship with them. So what does he have in mind? Does he want a championship, or does he want to struggle for points in F1? So it's really critical to also look at the other motorsports options that Ricciardo may have.
Yeah, I think it finally boils down to what he wants to leave as his legacy and where he wants to leave it at. But that said, I do want to bring Orajit, who's back.
So Vivek, talking about Ricardo, I think some other people also might be invested in him being part of F1. It should be the shoe companies when he does the shoe.
Yeah, but for that, he needs to be on the podium, which means he can't be in the Haas.
Unless there are 19 other cars not racing with him.
So to Twinkle's point, maybe he, shoe companies would be interested in IndyCar or something. But Orajit, I did want to ask you a question that, Twinkle mentioned this, that the results seem to be like a template as you go through this racing season. Started off very different. We were optimistic there is going to be a three-way race. But as you look at the points table on the Drivers' Championship, the Constructors' Championship, looks like Red Bull and Max are a mile away from any of their competition. What does that mean to a long-term F1 fan like you?
Well, basically, I was just comparing last year's discussions and this year. So there's hardly any engagement between fans. Everyone knows that Max is going to win, and it kind of makes the sport a little boring because the predictability factor kicks in, and like, okay, this guy is going to win. So people get a little miffed or bored. And I was just looking forward to Max crashing out by lap 13. But when I made that prediction, it was 12 laps had already been completed. So I wanted to see him crashing out, but there is no one as dumb or annoying as Max, who will go crash someone else's car. So, to be fair, like, of course, he's a good sports person. He has his, they have built a rocket and whatnot for him. But dominant teams, like, you take it from the era of the Chicago Bulls, or you take it teams like, or the three we had Federer. We have Federer, Djokovic, and Nadal for almost 2 decades dominating tennis. So it makes the sport a little boring. Means fans of the players or the teams might enjoy it, but for other people, the takeaway becomes very nil. And the most concerning part is that it creates a lot of spite and jealousy amongst other people, so other fans. So that's one thing which I am very wary of as a sports fan.
No, I mean, I agree to the point that it creates a legacy for the team and not for the sport. But F1 has seen this happen over the last decade or so, that at least I've been following it, right? Every window has had one team which has been dominant, and then there's this regulation change that comes in and then changes the order, brings in some excitement till someone really cracks the formula, and then there's that lead, right? Whether you take Red Bull with Vettel, then Hami and Mercedes. If you go a little further back, you have Schumi with Ferrari. And so you do tend to see that in F1 at least. Gaurang, you want to chime in over here?
Yeah, because obviously Oreo G had a really valid point, and it resonates with Martin Brundle's point as well. He clearly mentioned it, saying that I can see in the next coming years or even the next few months that if Max keeps winning, then he might have to face the same blame or whatever of winning all the races and being really boring. So yeah, actually Martin Brundle himself actually said this. So it's going to happen eventually. Next year also, if they have the same car which is really fast, and the others, Mercedes and Ferrari, they obviously keep catching up, and Max is obviously going to win. So it's going to be boring. There will be a few interesting races where there's where like all the drivers are really close, but at the end, the result. Like even if he has older tires, fresh tires, he's going to win it. So yeah, a good point.
Makes sense. And you bring an interesting point,
um,
right? Okay, before I move into the next one, Twinkle, do chime in. Yep.
Yeah, so I think one thing here though, I think what makes it more frustrating these last couple of months, right, at least this season, is that Ferrari did have the better car at the start of the season. So this is not how you expected things to play out by August. Nobody was expecting that Max would be 100 points ahead of Leclerc. It could have been like 20, 30. It could have been like last year, right? There could have been
just like last year.
Whatever it was, like even if he was 30, 40 points ahead of Leclerc, hundreds just. This is not how it should. His currently his world championship points look like a constructors championship points. He's I think somewhere around 310 or something, and only 15 races down the line, which technically means that he's won every race. This is not what you expected, and Ferrari still has a very good car. Ferrari, I don't know how committed the drivers are anymore, considering how many mistakes the teams keep making, how many times they keep letting them down. But they have two very committed drivers. They had every capability to win this world championship, and they had even the constructors championship. I think it's very frustrating because this is not what anybody expected. Not one-way domination when the whole season started. I think which is what makes it just that much more frustrating this season.
I can totally hear the frustration over that.
Yeah.
But that also brings up to the next point that I had, right? So F1 is a lot about the man, the machine, and the strategy. So we sort of spoke about the man, the machine, and where Red Bull's been pushing through. And Ferrari, like you said, has committed drivers. So they have the men. They have a good car that we have seen, and we continue to see that in qualifying. And then this thing called strategy comes into play, or the lack of it. Gaurang, did want to hear your thoughts on strategies across the various teams, because Red Bull applied strategy. Mercedes applied a strategy which they were better off not applying, and Ferrari is in its class apart. So what are your thoughts around all the various strategies that played out over this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, Max's extra new soft tires did come into play in the race, which he saved in the qualifying. So that's one point I would like to make. And I mean, people say, oh, okay, it's just a soft tire. How even if he just saves it, it's not a big deal. But as you can see, there will be circumstances, and even if it was used tires, George might have had a chance because he was only 4 seconds apart in the span of 8 laps, eight to 9 laps, like after the which was obviously the AC and restart. But yeah, so that's one point, and the other point when you come to the in the middle, obviously the midfield is Alpine took the first call with the hard tires. No one knew how it was going to perform, and Alpine. And I don't know, somehow we all missed it because they clearly said that they had this run in pre-practice and no one actually anticipated that Alpine is going to be good in hard tires. So everyone just obviously took by surprise because clearly they were collecting data on how Alonso is going to run on hard tires. So it was a brilliant call. It was planned. Obviously, it was not like let's see what happens. So it was good call from them, and obviously Lando had the same thing, or like to cover up Alonso because he was, Lando was ahead when Alonso pitted. So that's the other point. And third point would be Schumacher. Mick Schumacher they kind of destroyed his race with I think both the pit stops. So he could not actually come back with with the good quality that he had. Maybe there was not too much space because both the Alpines eventually overtook in terms of strategies. And I think the final point would be with Sergio Perez, why he was in the scene. I mean, in the top four. But is it because of the power deficit that he's having? Because he's going to get a new PU in Monza. But still, he had the same car and he had the same tires, but there was no pace. So the strategy was there, but the pace wasn't there. It was like Bottas in a Mercedes, like in his bad days. When he's in, if you remember, I think 2020 Italian Grand Prix or 2019, I guess, where he didn't have any pace at all, and he was just going back, mid race. So yeah, so I mean on Red Bull side, he could not really do much because he could have overtaken both the Ferraris. So, yeah.
That's true. So yes, different strategies played out differently for different drivers within the same constructor itself. And there was one driver who had his own strategy, which is Sonoda.
God.
Does anyone still know what exactly happened?
Yeah, I mean, Orioji, if you would like to go
No, I just basically know someone halted his car right in the middle of the track. So
I don't
So,
know
I mean-
what the problem was. Yeah, go ahead.
everyone's still guessing, I believe.
No. So there's this official report already by the FIA and the stewards. They did examine the car, and he did have a problem in the differential. And all the conspiracy theorists might say that the FIA is being paid by the Red Bull or whatever. But I mean, at the end of the day, we have to go by what they have said, and the matter is over. So, but the tricky bit is again if you see how the interview went with Yuki after the race, it was very spooky. I mean, I can see it through. He was just repeating words that were being fed into him, and he was just saying the data was not clear, and I came in and again the data was not clear. But then he says that like we got to know that we have some problem in the diff, and he had to stop. So and by the way, that radio call happened just after he exited the pit box, not the pit lane. So there's another argument that he could have stopped inside the pit lane, but I don't know. Even I'm actually unclear on that if he can do that. But yeah, so that is again a little spooky there. I don't know why the FIA did not intervene on that call as to why did the team make that call, go out and stop, because it has huge implications on the race. So you might as well do it in the pit stop. So yeah, I mean that's one spooky part that's still out there. for all the conspiracy guys to handle it. But on the other hand, officially, it's not there anymore. So yeah.
Yeah, so I think even the radio message said that stop outside of the pit lane.
Yeah, yeah.
Blocked
Why?
us to exit
Ex-
basically. But
Explain.
I mean, of course, there's a lot of this discussion going on every social media platform. But then even people are like, what sense does it make? You know, because Red Bull's leading by like hundreds of points right now. It doesn't even matter anymore. They have two. They're capable of winning two constructors championship with the kind of points they have right now. You know, so it doesn't make sense that they do it for just. He was anyway gonna win. Max was anyway gonna win.
Yeah, no, I think I honestly, I think this was probably just an innocent scenario where
No, one thing makes sense. No, that it's his
maybe it
home
was
Grand
not
Prix.
planned, but of course, maybe they still wanted it to somehow benefit Max. Maybe it was not. Of course, it was not planned. I mean, that's just a little crazy that Red
Yeah.
Bull would do something like that. But yeah,
I don't believe it, but
Yeah.
I would like to bring out one conspiracy theory that happened back in 2020 Sakhir Grand Prix, where I honestly believe, I don't know about Twinkle, but Mercedes, I think they did not let George win the race because
in the car,
yeah, because
the outer circuit, no, Bahrain outer circuit,
yeah, because they said they had the wrong tires on. Okay, fine. He did a pit stop. He again came back. And then they say that he has a slow puncher and they had to pit him. And eventually that put him way back. And then they were happy. I don't know, like, how can that happen? With slow puncher, there was no debris and there was no data. Like, no one had that data except for Mercedes. I remember
I
at
think
that
they
time.
just didn't care about the race, honestly, Sakhir 2020. Because they'd already won way before that, right?
Right.
A couple of
but
years before.
They wouldn't have, right? Actually, no, 2020 was later.
2020 they did
2020.
win. They did
Yeah,
win. So they didn't
was
care
just-
actually, I think, by that point of time. I think even Lewis didn't care to show up. I think all that I think he was all well and everything. I don't think he cared enough to show up.
Yeah.
That's just a personal opinion.
So-
On the strategies yesterday, I think Mercedes took a very half-hearted strategy, if I'm being honest. If they wanted to let Lewis race, they should have just left George in. They should have gone all in on that strategy. They backed out. I think it was a very half-hearted executed strategy. Personally, I had a lot of PTSD because of Abu Dhabi, because this is exactly what happened in Abu Dhabi. So personally, it was very traumatizing that it's the exact same thing happening again in the exact same manner, just that more laps to go. So we could really soak in the misery for 12 laps. But I think other than that, it was the wrong call. I don't think Lewis knew that, George's not going to stay on the mediums. I don't think there was proper communication. I don't think Lewis made the right choice. And I think I don't know what was going on, but it was clearly not the right choice, strategy, I guess. I think everybody else pretty much optimized their strategies except for Ferrari, because they never do. And Red Bull just one thing, I know we brought up Sergio Perez somewhere in the middle of the discussion. I don't know, I just don't see it in him in the last couple of races, the way he was racing before that, where he knew that he had a legit chance at the championship, right? Because he was racing, he wanted to race Max, he wanted that championship this year. I think as soon as he realized that it's not coming his way, at least not this year, I think he backed out. I don't see it in him anymore. I don't see that same Checo Perez energy from the last. Yeah, I just don't see that same intensity in him in the last 4-5 races. Also, it really doesn't matter how he performs, what he does. Yesterday, Max had 4 pit stops, which was, generally more than all the top 10. And even then, he won by 5.5 seconds. So it really doesn't matter at this point, whatever Checo does.
It doesn't matter whatever everyone else does.
Yeah.
Max has just become one with the machine, and he's able to squeeze out the most out of it, especially when you compare it to Checo, right?
And he's even able to push it to greater limits, right? Because he just has that kind of confidence on the strategy and the car. That has to be there. That's where it all comes from. The man is made from, both of these components. I think he just has that. He has everything working for him. The stars are all aligned.
And this was home ground, so he just could not go wrong there. But that brings us to an interesting point. Next week is home ground for another team that thrives in pressure. So what are your thoughts before we close out this week's episode on what to expect next week and what are your predictions for the top three? And we can start with Twinkle.
Why me? Okay. Yeah, Max. It's obviously going to be a Max win again. Probably, okay. Yeah, Lewis 2, George 3.
See, whenever Twinkle has said Lewis in her predictions, it's always come true.
Please Twinkle,
Manifestation.
Even when Lewis has lost hope and is probably at the end, starting from the pit lane, he has got to the podium because Twinkle said so.
Wow.
So we'll
PR
stick
should
to
really
that.
be giving me some kind of money at least. PR strategy team, someone.
Well, you will at least ensure you'll be seeing him live next year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All depends on Gaurang.
Yes.
Now we have a lot more witnesses on the
Yeah.
internet.
Yeah, this is now going to be
Yep.
there forever, Gaurang. Yeah. I'm going to hold you accountable.
Yep. I mean, I also want to watch the race, so
Yeah.
definitely.
So, Arijit, how about you? Predictions for next week?
Max is crashing out in lap 30.
Oh no, he's going to win.
Perez, Hamilton, and Ferrari 3-4.
Okay, that's a very interesting lineup. Let's see if it plays out in that manner.
I think
I
I
think
have
we
been a
need-
little unfair on George Russell. He's racing fine, so
He's Mr. Dependable. He'll get to the top
George
5.
Russell will get in top 5, no matter what. You could make him race on a horse. He will end up in top 5. Doesn't matter.
Well, how about you, Gaurang?
So I just hate predictions, but so that's why I'll go ahead with very realistic predictions. I think that Mercedes will not really a really bad time like in Spa, but it would be in the middle of Zandvoort and Spa. So probably 2 to 3 tenths off in pace. Qualifying, I don't expect them to be anywhere close, so it'll be the normal 4th or 5th. But in the race, definitely they'll have good strategies. They will make it work and probably a podium, either Lewis or George. Maybe Lewis because obviously Twinkle had a say. So on the other hand, Ferrari, I don't know if they have any upgrades, still happening. I need to do some research and see if they have any upgrades at all,
The management needs
even if-
upgrades in Ferrari.
or even if they had planned anything, maybe let's say the Spa weekend and this weekend they had no upgrades and probably, I don't know, maybe it's too late to say. It's Monday already and I don't know, but either way they might have some pace in qualifying, but in the race probably Max is going to win it. But I think Sergio will have a new PU, which is a power unit. So let's see. I'm actually excited to see what's going to happen there. So yeah.
I think we could also add another segment to this, Vivek. We could also do a prediction of how many strategy mistakes would Ferrari make.
Yeah.
So infinity and infinity plus 1 is still infinity.
Yes.
But yeah, no, I think looks like my prediction would also be Max is going to win this. A Mercedes is probably going to be second. And I say a Mercedes because I'm tempted to think Russell might make it.
Ooh.
And the third place, I would say, just because it's Monza, Ferrari will squeeze through. Like qualifying, Ferrari might get pole or even the second, but they'll screw up somehow. And then in the end, Leclerc will just manage to get onto the podium.
Mm-hmm. Their
and close
homeboy.
it out.
Yeah.
And
So
with
the
that, I think we should be
exact same
closing out
result
our...
as Hungary, right? So then
Sorry?
that is the exact same result as Hungary. Max,
yeah.
Russell and Leclerc. that would not be
So
any
we might just see that. You never know.
Yeah.
At least I would hope for. But with that, we have obviously an exciting weekend lined up for the Tifosi. It is home ground. Whether that's an advantage or disadvantage, we'll get to know next weekend. With that, again, thanks a lot for all our panelists taking your time out and sharing your thoughts. For our viewers, if you have any questions, comments, type it in the comment section. We will respond to those. And like, share, subscribe. Like we always say, the Toast Network. We have a variety of sports lined up. If you think we should be kicking off a new sport, let us know in the comments, and we will seriously ponder over it because we have nothing else to do. And Arjit wants to say something before we close out. A word from our sponsors.
We don't have sponsors, but anyways, the US Open is happening, and King Kyrgios defeated number one Daniil Medvedev. So that was something exciting for me. So do catch our podcasts on tennis and cricket because the Asia Cup is also happening, and I'm not sure how many people are watching that.
Clearly, a lot of them, which is why we moved this episode to today and not to clash with the match itself or the after effects of the match. But with that, thanks a lot, everyone, for tuning in. See you in the next episode, the 25th episode, a milestone for us at Toaster Talk. So take care, stay safe, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.